We'll find out next.
You're listening to ABC Radio Queensland.
Numbers, and we're up to iPhone number 12 with 5G technology on board. But what is actually on offer, apart from that other phones on the market don't already have? Because lots of phones, my understanding is smartphones in the Android sense, already have 5G on board. Mathew Dickerson can help us out. He's a technology expert who's run a technology business for the past 30 years. G'day, Matthew.
Yeah, g'day, Annie. How you going?
Yeah, good. Tell us about what Apple's unveiled today and compared to the iPhone 11. What's new about the 12?
Well, I think you nailed it there in the intro. They're doing a bit of catch-up, I think, in this particular revision of the iPhone. 5G has been around. Samsung, the most popular phone in the world, or their phones in general, March last year they came out with their first 5G phone. So Apple's a long way behind. But sitting there at 4 o'clock this morning, watching the launch and all the pizzazz that Apple wraps around any launch, you would think that they invented 5G and it's only just come to the market today. And that's how good they are. Now, they have got one advantage in their 5G in that there are lots of different frequencies that 5G runs around the world, different countries, different frequency allowances. So in other words, some governments might only have certain spectrum available. And this particular 5G from Apple is a 5G that essentially covers every different frequency around the world. So it gives you more flexibility. If we could get on a plane and fly somewhere around the world, it would give you that flexibility around the world. So the 5G they've got is certainly a good version of 5G, if you like. But yeah, the way they talked about it, it's 5G is going to change the world. Whereas if you asked Apple 2 weeks ago about 5G, they'd say you don't really need 5G. So they've certainly done that and done that well. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say the other point that they make is that they're moving to something called wireless charging. So tell us about that, and is that, I guess, something that the other smartphone companies aren't offering with their devices?
Now, they're offering that as well, and they already had wireless charging on a few of their devices for the last few years, but they've gone to something a little bit different now with what they're calling MagSafe. Essentially what it does is gives you a magnet on the back of the phone so that when you do put it onto your wireless charger, one of the things that happens sometimes with wireless charging on all smartphones is you drop it onto your wireless charger and you walk away and think it's charging. But if you didn't get it in just the right spot, it actually isn't charging. So you come back a few hours later and you think your phone will be fully charged. And of course, it's not even started charging. So MagSafe basically incompatible with MagSafe chargers will snap to the particular location using a magnet. The magnet also gives you the ability to snap on other things, such as a case or a little wallet on the back of it. So it's using a very strong magnet there to hold it in there. And again, other manufacturers, third-party manufacturers, have done things similar where you could stick on a bit of metal on the back of your phone and then use a magnet to hold it, for example, in your car or even in your home, sitting at your home office. But this is actually built into the phone. So that's a nice step forward. Again, not revolutionary, and I think that's probably the point with this particular range. There's 4 iPhones that they released. I think they're more evolutionary rather than revolutionary. Some parts they're catching up, 5G as an example. Some parts they're giving you something more integrated. But one thing that's really interesting, Annie, is that they've said from an environmental perspective that they're not going to give you a charging brick or not going to give you a set of headphones in the box. And they're things that people have expected in smartphones for a long period of time. Now,
so why is that?
Well, their logic is they've said that there are 2 billion charging bricks, Apple charging bricks, that have already been sold over the years, 700 million sets of lightning adapter headphones that have been sold over the years. So people don't really need those things. The only little sneaky part that's gone into there, though, Annie, which I'm a little bit concerned about, is they've taken that from an environmental perspective. But then the actual cable they give you in the box, there's still a lightning port on the actual iPhone itself. At the other end, all those charging bricks out there, those 2 billion charging bricks, have got USB-A. So that's the larger USB that most people normally see, about a centimetre wide. But the charging cable they've given you is USB-C on the other end. So you take it home, you've got your charging brick from last year's iPhone, you go to plug it in, it doesn't fit. So then you've either got to go and buy an adapter or buy a new charging brick. And the cynic in me says that maybe it's a way for Apple to sell more charging bricks. You don't get it with the phone anymore. You might have a USB-C at home, you may not, but most people would have USB-A and not USB-C.
I can't believe that you're that cynical. What else is it about this phone or these 4 options that are now available with the 12 that it might be a little bit different.
Yeah, certainly it's about cameras. Smartphones are so much about cameras now. It's very rare to see someone with a normal, good old-fashioned camera pull it out of their bag and take a photo. We rely on our cameras so much. So there's 4 phones, as I mentioned, in the 2 broad ranges. Let's call it the iPhone 12 standard, which has got a mini and a standard, and then the iPhone 12 Pro. Let's just focus on the Pro for a minute. There's a Pro and a Pro Max. They've got 3 cameras on them, the same as this year's current models. The 2 iPhone 11s have got 3 cameras on them. But what they've done better this time, a couple of things. One, they've increased the zoom level. So the iPhone 12 Pro has 4 times optical zoom. The Pro Max has got 5 times optical zoom. And again, that's catching up to Samsung a little bit, not quite to the same level as Samsung, but they're kind of really competing on that camera side of it. But where they're really focused is on the increased power in the processor. And I know it sounds ridiculous. You would think a camera would rely on the lens, but the computing power behind the lens gives you more of the quality than the actual lens itself. You still have to have a good quality lens, of course. But for example, night mode, one of the things that's really powerful in the latest iPhone range is the night mode. So what it effectively does in very simplistic terms is rather than take one shot in a dark room and you end up with a dark photo, it takes multiple shots and then uses that increased computing power to stitch them together, and all the little bits of light from those multiple photos get stitched together. Even if you move the phone around a little bit, as a human would do, because we're not a tripod, we can't hold it perfectly still, but it uses that power to stitch it together, and it just looks like one photo. But when you see the demonstration of a nighttime photo and then see how it looks in a photo, you go, wow, that's pretty incredible. So that's where more of the competition is around what you can do with the camera. They've had things like the bokeh effect for a little while, which is something where you can take a photo of a person in the front and then slightly blur the background just to make that person stand out a little bit. So they're really working on all these little tiny things in the cameras just to make the camera experience better. Because let's face it, making a phone call, they all do that. In fact, not many people make phone calls on them anymore. It's a bit rare to see someone using it for a phone. But it's all these extra things that you're doing. And of course, so much is put on social media these days. You want to make sure that your filters or your nighttime photography or the videos, the quality of those videos, that's where the real competition is now in smartphones.
Do you think, given, the straitened circumstances that a lot of people are finding themselves in at the moment, that they're still spending on technology?
They are still spending on technology. In fact, I saw a report only come through this morning that says people are spending an increased amount on smartphones. What they are doing, though, is they're just dropping their price bracket ever so slightly. So when the competition used to be around, say, in US dollars, maybe $900 to $1,500 US for some of those premium smartphones, a lot of that market's just moving down a level, but there's still a lot of competition there, and there's still some good quality products, and people are still buying technology because they're not able to fly now, they're not able to go on big holidays. Some people obviously are doing it very tough from a work perspective, but a phone is something that is almost like electricity. You just expect to have it. You kind of almost need to be able to have a phone to live a reasonable life now.
Really interesting to get your perspective on this, Matthew. I should let you go so you can go and catch some shut-eye after that early morning reveal of the new iPhone.
I'm not like one of these early morning breakfast presenters that gets up early and then stays going all day.
Good on you, Matthew. Good to talk to you.
Thanks,
you.
Annie.
Mathew Dickerson is a technology expert.